The Attack of the Dead Men is one of the most remarkable and haunting episodes of World War I, occurring during the defense of Osowiec Fortress on the Eastern Front. This event is not only famous for its sheer brutality, but also for the almost mythic determination and resilience of the Russian soldiers who were defending the fortress. The event took place on August 6, 1915, and is a testament to the horrors of chemical warfare and the unimaginable resolve of soldiers during wartime. Osowiec Fortress was built in the late 19th century by the Russian Empire to defend against any potential German or Austro-Hungarian advances through the flat, marshy terrain of what is now northeastern Poland. The fortress was strategically important as it guarded a vital railway line which was essential for military movements and logistics in the region. In 1914, when World War I broke out, the fortress was garrisoned by Russian troops who found themselves facing the combined might of the German Empire. By 1915, the Germans had launched a massive offensive on the Eastern Front, pushing the Russian forces back. However, Osowiec Fortress stood in the way of further German advances, and its capture became a priority. By the summer of 1915, Osowiec had already endured several assaults. It had been bombarded with artillery, including heavy siege guns, such as the massive 42 centimeters howitzer known as Big Bertha. These guns could reduce fortifications to rubble, and the Germans believed that Osowiec would be no exception. Despite heavy bombardments that damaged parts of the fortress, the Russian defenders held their ground. After the failure of conventional tactics, the Germans decided to deploy a new and terrifying weapon, poison gas. At this point in the war, the Germans were pioneers in the use of chemical warfare, having first used chlorine gas during the Second Battle of Ypres earlier in 1915. The Germans hoped that the gas would succeed where artillery had failed, incapacitating the defenders and allowing for an easy capture of the fortress. On August 6, 1915, the Germans launched their gas attack on Osowiec Fortress. A specially prepared mixture of chlorine and bromine gas was released, carried by the wind toward the Russian lines. Chlorine gas is highly toxic, and when inhaled, it reacts with moisture in the lungs to form hydrochloric acid, leading to suffocation. Bromine gas also affects the respiratory system, causing severe irritation and damage. The Russian troops stationed in the fortress were ill-prepared for a gas attack. While the Germans had developed gas masks, the Russians had only rudimentary protection, if any at all. As the greenish-yellow cloud of gas descended on the Russian positions, many soldiers began to choke, collapse, and die in agony. The vegetation around the fortress withered, and the bodies of animals and birds littered the battlefield. Once the gas cloud had cleared, the German infantry, numbering around 7,000 men, advanced toward the fortress. They believed that the gas attack had eliminated most, if not all, of the Russian defenders, and they expected little resistance. As they moved forward, they encountered little movement from the Russian lines, and confidence grew that victory was at hand. However, as the German troops approached the Russian trenches, a terrifying sight greeted them. Out of the poison-filled trenches emerged Russian soldiers, many of them staggering and barely recognizable as human. Their uniforms were torn and their faces were disfigured by the effects of the gas. Blood and mucus poured from their mouths and noses, and their skin was scorched and blistered by the chemicals. These soldiers, gasping for air and coughing up blood, charged at the advancing Germans with bayonets fixed, shouting hoarsely and appearing like the walking dead. This was the moment that became known as the Attack of the Dead Men. Despite the overwhelming odds, the Russian soldiers, estimated to number between 60 and 100, launched a desperate counterattack. Many of them were already dying from the effects of the gas, but they fought with a ferocity that stunned the Germans. The sight of these dead men charging at them through the gas and smoke was so horrifying that the German soldiers, already shocked by the failure of the gas to secure victory, panicked and fled in disarray. Osowiec Fortress, despite being abandoned by the Russians, was never fully captured by the Germans in the way they had hoped. The psychological impact of the dead men charging from the trenches lingered in the minds of German troops and commanders, contributing to the legend of Osowiec as an unbreakable bastion. The attack of the dead men has since become a symbol of the horrors of chemical warfare and the indomitable human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. It illustrates both the brutality of World War I and the resilience of soldiers who found themselves fighting in some of the most appalling conditions imaginable. While the exact details of the event have become somewhat mythologized over time, the core of the story remains a powerful testament to the Russian defenders' courage and determination. In a war that was often marked by immense suffering and the use of inhumane tactics, the attack of the dead men stands out as one of the most bizarre and tragic episodes, a vivid reminder of the cost of war and the incredible endurance of those who fought in it.